wherever the news, wherever the news, and whenever the news is breaking. Vision News would bring you the news every day, 6 a.m., 12 noon, and 6 p.m. Listen to Vision News for the most authoritative news. Vision FM 92.1, your most authoritative source for news.
And that is confirmed.
This week in the news. Welcome to this week's edition of This Week in the News. It is a summary of stories that made headlines in our bulletin during the week. We begin the review with Monday's bulletin. Leading story in our news bulletin on Monday was that the Defense Headquarters has issued a stern warning to individuals or groups calling for a military takeover in Nigeria, emphasizing that such actions are treasonable under the Constitution. The military reaffirmed its loyalty to President Bola Tinubu's administration and its commitment to upholding democracy in the country. The Defense Headquarters stressed in a statement issued by Brigadier General Tukur Gusau, the Director of Defense Information, that the armed forces of Nigeria remain focused on their statutory duties, which include protecting the country's territorial integrity and ensuring peace and security. The statement noted that those calling for a military takeover as seen in a viral video should be aware that such actions are treasonable under the Constitution. In another report on Monday, we informed you that the federal government has reiterated its commitment to protecting Nigeria's judiciary from all forms of manipulation and interference. Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, stated this in Abuja at the groundbreaking ceremony for the construction of judges' quarters in Katampe district. Wike stressed President Bola Tinubu's determination to improve the standard of living of judges, noting that the president has consistently insisted on measures that ensure judicial independence. The minister said that housing remained part of the essential conditions for shielding the judiciary from external influences, emphasizing that by providing housing, the government was ensuring that judges have a home to retire to. He added that when judges were assured of stable salaries, allowances, and guaranteed tenure, they will be empowered to perform their duties with integrity and courage. In her remarks, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Kudirat Kekereekun, described the move by the government to build the houses for judicial officers as a significant milestone to enhance their welfare.
The judiciary plays a critical role in safeguarding the rule of law, upholding justice, and protecting the rights of citizens. In fulfilling this role, judicial officers must have the right tools and environment to carry out their duties with independence, impartiality, and integrity. Beyond the courtroom, a supportive and conducive living environment is essential to their ability to focus on the heavy responsibilities entrusted to them.
Still on Monday, we told you that the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra has distanced itself from the 21st and 22nd October sit-at-home order, blaming the directive on those it called infiltrators and criminals working for the government to tarnish the peaceful image of the movement. IPOB also urged residents of the Southeast region to disregard the order circulating on the social media. Residents in the Southeast had in the order been warned to stay indoors, while parents and guardians were directed to keep children from school, as businesses were also ordered to be closed amid threats against non-compliers. While distancing itself from the order, the pro-Biafra group emphasized that it always makes public announcements when declaring a sit-at-home and urged the public to ignore what it described as an obnoxious order from criminals allegedly working to demonize IPOB. From the international belt on Monday, it was reported in our news bulletin that new cases of political violence have been rearing their heads as the United States wind up activities for November's contentious election. In New York, Pennsylvania, a man accosted a group of people rallying for Vice President Kamala Harris' White House campaign, punching a 74-year-old man in the head, and in northern Michigan, an assailant enraged by his hatred of Donald Trump used an all-terrain vehicle to run over and injured an 81-year-old man who was putting up a yard sign for the former president's re-election bid. The recent attacks were among at least 300 cases of political violence identified by Reuters since Trump's supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, including at least 51 incidents this year. In sports, we reported that Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta has warned his players that they needed to eradicate the ill discipline that has seen them pick up 3 red cards in 8 Premier League fixtures this season. In the news on Tuesday, we brought you a report that the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, has held strategic discussion with Internal Monetary Fund Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva at the IMF annual meetings in Washington, D.C. on Nigeria's economic growth prospects. A statement issued by the ministry said the meeting also centered on the critical need to enhance social protection systems and review the significant progress achieved on that President Bola Tinubu's reform agenda. Edun will advocate for global support of Nigeria's economic reforms at the 2024 annual meetings of the World Bank and the IMF. The high-profile meetings will be held in Washington, D.C. from October 21st to October 26th, 2024, with key ministerial events taking place between October 22nd and 25th. Leading Nigeria's delegation, Edun will be at the forefront of discussions on strengthening Nigeria's economic resilience, particularly amid the nation's ongoing structural reforms. You also heard in our news bulletin on Tuesday that the House of Representatives has resolved to summon Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, and Director General of the Department of State Services, Oluwatosin Ajayi, along with the FCT Commissioner of Police, Olatunji Disu, and other security stakeholders to address the worsening security situation in Abuja. The decision followed the adoption of a motion of urgent public importance moved by Haruna Dabo, the member representing the Toro Federal constituency of Bauchi State, during plenary. Dabo's motion focused on the resurgence of one-chance robberies, which led to the tragic death of his legislative aide, Nima Suleiman. Suleiman was abducted by unidentified gunmen on October 17, 2024 in Abuja, and despite her abductors collecting a ransom of 1 million naira, they stabbed her to death. While presenting his motion, Dabo lamented the increasing rate of kidnappings and robberies in the FCT, noting that both suburban and central areas of the capital city have become unsafe. The House directed its committees on FCT Police and National Security and Intelligence to summon the FCT Minister, the FCT Commissioner of Police, the DG of the DSS, and other key stakeholders to provide a detailed briefing on the current security situation in the capital. Still in the news on Tuesday, we told you that Nigeria's First Lady, Senator Oluremu Tinubu, has urged parents to redirect the minds of youth towards productive engagements and national development rather than resorting to cyber crimes. Oluremu Tinubu gave the charge at a National Cybercrime Summit organized by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. She also urged parents to inculcate good values, ethical conduct, and requisite skills that will make use of Nigeria worthy ambassadors of the country.
Parents must model responsible behavior themselves. We must take proactive steps about renewing and redirecting the minds of our youth towards productive and honest living in our daily interactions with them and always be present. As leaders in our various endeavors, we must realize that the Commonwealth of Nigeria is for all of us to benefit. Hence the need to assist and guide our youth to engage in positive online activities rather than resorting to cybercrime.
On his part, Sultan of Sokoto Alhaji Muhammad Abubakar cautioned youth to desist from acts capable of dragging their names in the mud.
Some youth with IT skills have used these skills to commit cyber crimes, use the skills very negatively. This has very serious consequences for the youth, not only for the youth, but also for the country itself. The criminal activities eventually, the criminal perpetrators will eventually be caught, no matter how long it takes, and will lose all the fortunes and their names, the things they have gathered.
Chairman of the EFCC, Ola Olukoyode, said the Commission is building a cybercrime resource center to train 500 youths on how to use their skills to combat such crimes and other internet vices.
One of my policy objectives is not just to arrest and prosecute, it's also to develop policy measures, going by the Section 6 of the EFCC Act, that will help the public to redirect our skills to what is right in order to prevent crime by championing the cause of setting up a cyber crime research center that will take about 500 youth per time, train them over a period of time, bring in experts in the area of IT, cyber security. From there, we can also service other sectors.
Olukoyede urged governors to establish similar resource centers in their states to redirect these skills for positive engagement. In another report, you heard on Tuesday that the Supreme Court has reserved the judgment in a suit filed by 19 states challenging the act establishing the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and other anti-corruption agencies. The Apex Court reserved the judgment after parties in the suit argued their case. Before the case was reserved for judgment, Anambra, Adamawa and Ebonyi State withdrew from the suit instituted by Kogi State and 18 others to challenge the constitutionality of the law establishing the EFCC and the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission (ICPC). The 7-member panel of justices, led by Justice Uwani Abaji, struck out the names of the 3 states from the suit after listening to the application for the withdrawal by each state separately. Earlier in the proceeding, the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi San, urged the court to allow for reply on point of law for the deemed filed. In their ruling, the Apex Court granted the application by the defendants to recognize the reply on point of law. Meanwhile, the Attorneys General of Nasarawa and Osun State have applied for consolidation in the suit. Counsel to the Kogi State government, Abdul Wahab Mohammed San, argued that the EFCC Act was defective as it was mere adoption of Unified Nation Convention against corruption. The Supreme Court has therefore reserved judgment in the suit for a date that will be communicated to the parties. From the International Belt on Tuesday, it was reported in our news bulletin that Secretary of State Antony Blinken has met Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the first big United States push for a Middle East ceasefire since Israel killed the leader of Hamas last week and the last attempt before a presidential election that could unpend U.S. policy. Blinken began his meetings in Israel as Hezbollah launched rockets into Tel Aviv and Haifa, and Israeli airstrikes pummeled parts of Beirut's southern suburbs, including an airstrike that caused a multi-story building to entirely collapse. Repeated diplomatic efforts have failed to bring an end to both the year-long war in the Palestinian territory of Gaza and to its spillover conflict between Israel and the Lebanese Iran-backed armed group Hezbollah. From the world of sports, on Tuesday we informed you that Captain Rasheedat Ajibade, Chiamaka Nnadozie and Gift Monday have arrived at the Super Falcons camp in Lagos ahead of the international friendlies against Algeria. The trio were among the foreign-based players invited for the double-header friendlies by caretaker coach Justin Madugu. On Wednesday, we told you in our news bulletin that the Federal Executive Council has scrapped the Niger Delta Ministry and created a Ministry of Regional Development to oversee all the regional development commissions. The commissions include Niger Delta Development Commission, Northwest Development Commission, Southwest Development Commission, and Northeast Development Commission. Also scrapped by FEC was the Ministry of Sports Development, whose functions will now be taken over by the National Sports Commission. These developments were announced by Bayo Onanuga, the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, in a statement. The statement said the Council also approved the merger of the Ministry of Tourism with that of Culture and Creative Economy. Meanwhile, President Tinubu has also sacked 6 ministers from his cabinet and also forwarded to the National Assembly 7 ministerial nominees to take over the vacant positions. The ministers that were sacked from the cabinet were Professor Tahir Mamman Education, Uju Kennedy Ohane Women Affairs, Muhammad Gwarzo State for Housing, Jamila Ibrahim Youth Development, Lola Adejon Tourism, and the suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Betaidu, who has been replaced. President Tinubu has also forwarded 7 new ministerial nominees to the National Assembly, including Bianca Ojukwu, wife of late Dean Odimegu Ojukwu, for confirmation. We also brought you a report that the Senate has called for a national summit after briefings with President Bola Tinubu in an attempt to significantly resolve Nigeria's syndrome of out-of-school children. The Senate resolution followed the submission of the report of the Committee on Education, Basic and Secondary, on the compelling need to tackle the challenge of out-of-school children in Nigeria. Chairman of the committee, Senator Usman Adamu, representing Kaduna Central, said over 2 million out-of-school children have been enrolled in the last 1 year through the collective efforts of the agencies of the ministry working on out-of-school children education. In a robust debate by over 20 lawmakers, the out-of-school children menace was identified as a time bomb demanding solutions that transcends that of the federal government alone. While the lawmakers call for a proper handshake between the national and sub-nationals, particularly on the issue of access to the Universal Basic Education Commission UBEC funds, others like Senator Ahmed Lawan raised the idea that significant funds from the 2025 budget be allocated for the sole purpose of tackling the out-of-school challenge. President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, said out-of-school children have become potential bandits exacerbating the need to curb the crisis.
20 million children that are out of school is a time bomb for any country. Already we are experiencing banditry. I just have to mention your names one by one now so that you know that here you have the decorum in the Senate. I'm not impressed that people are not listening to one another. Please, let's be serious here. This is a very important topic. I allowed 1 hour 30 minutes because if we can solve the problem of out-of-school children in Nigeria, over 20 million children that are out of school, those are potential bandits. You have children. They can't come back from abroad after all the investment and they die without knowing why. Because a group of bandits will lay them on the road, rape them, kill them. They are dying because you failed to do the basic. You failed to send your neighbor's child to school.
Still on Wednesday, you heard in our news bulletin that the federal government has dropped money laundering charges against Tigran Gambaryan, an executive of cryptocurrency firm Binance Holdings. The Binance executive had been facing money laundering trial for about 6 months since his arrest in Nigeria. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission announced the withdrawal of the charges at the Federal High Court in Abuja, saying the withdrawal of the charges against Mr. Gambaryan, a United States citizen, was because the accused was merely an employee of Binance. From the foreign scene on Wednesday, we informed you that the United States has said that for the first time it has seen evidence of North Korean troops in Russia, and South Korean lawmakers said about 3,000 soldiers had been sent to support the Kremlin's war in Ukraine, with more to follow. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, while speaking in Rome, Italy, said it will be very serious if the North Koreans were preparing to fight alongside Russia in Ukraine, as Kyiv has alleged, though he said it remained to be seen what they will be doing there. In Seoul, South Korean lawmakers said that North Korea had sent 3,000 troops to Russia and thousands more were expected to follow. From the world of sports, we brought you a report that Chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Sports, Kabiru Ahmadu, has commended President Bola Tinubu over his decision to scrap the Ministry of Sports Development. President Tinubu announced scrapping of Ministry of Sports Development and being replaced by the National Sports Commission (NSC). A statement issued by Ahmadu and signed by his media team in Abuja said the decision was a welcome development and one that was totally supported by the National Assembly. Next is Thursday's review, but that will be after this break.
However the news, wherever the news, and whenever the news is breaking, Vision News would bring you the news every day, 6 a.m., 12 noon, and 6 p.m. Listen to Vision News for the most authoritative news. Vision FM 92.1, your most authoritative source for news. And that is confirmed.
Alright, welcome back. If you're just joining, this is This Week in the News. Leading story in our news bulletin on Thursday was that President Bola Tinubu has reassured the public that past mistakes such as neglecting livestock farming and relying on dairy imports will be avoided. He pledged a robust framework to stimulate prosperity in the sector, instilling confidence in his commitment. The president, who opened a 2-day consultative workshop in livestock reforms at the State House Conference Center, pledged government support in revamping and repositioning the sector to create employment and attract foreign direct investment. In another report, you heard that the Senate has received a request from President Bola Tinubu for confirmation of appointments of 7 ministerial nominees. President Tinubu's request was contained in a letter addressed to the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, and read at the beginning of plenary on Thursday. The ministerial nominees as contained in the letter were Dr. Nentawe Yilwatda, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Muhammadu Maigari Dingyadi, Minister of Labor and Employment, and Bianca Ojukwu, Minister of State Foreign Affairs. Others were Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, Minister of Industry, Trade and Development, Idi Mukhtar Meha, Minister of Livestock Development, Honorable Yusuf Abdullahi Atta, Minister of State Housing, and Dr. Suwaiba Saeed Ahmed, Minister of State Education. You also heard that Kogi State Governor Ahmed Usman Ododo has called for collaboration between the state and the federal government towards accelerating investment in the exploration of oil resources in the state. Governor Ododo made the call when he visited the Minister of State Petroleum Resources Oil, Senator Henikin Lukbobiri in Abuja. While restating his administration's commitment to providing an enabling environment for investors and their investments, Governor Ododo expressed willingness of the Kogi State government to cooperate with the federal government to ensure that oil exploration in the state comes on stream in line with the commitment of President Bola Tinubu to pursue oil exploration in the frontier basins in Nigeria. In his part, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Oil, Senator Heneke Lopobiri, reaffirmed the status of Kogi as an oil-producing state and pledged the commitment of the federal government towards mobilizing investments to explore the huge oil deposits in Kogi State. Still in the news on Thursday, we told you that the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, has inaugurated the 2 billion naira Yawuri water scheme. In a speech at the ceremony held at the Emir's Palace, Yawuri in Kebbi, Akume said the rehabilitation of the water scheme was a symbol of progress, development, and the federal government's commitment to improving the lives of all Nigerians. Represented by his Chief of Staff, Simon Ugu, said the gigantic project initiated by the Hyperdeck several years ago was a subtle initiative of the commission under its pioneer managing director. Also speaking, Governor Nasir Idris of Kebbi said the project was a partnership between the Kebbi government and Hyperdeck to improve the livelihood of citizens of the state. From the international scene on Thursday, we informed you that Mozambique's ruling party Frelimo has won the country's divisive, violence-marred election, extending its 49-year grip on power in the southern African nation. Daniel Chapo, Frelimo's relatively unknown presidential candidate, who has been seen as an agent of change, will replace Filipe Nyusi, who has served 2 terms. Chapo, who gained 71% of the vote, will be the first president born after Mozambique's independence in 1975. His closest challenger, Venancio Mondlane, got 20%. In sports, you heard that Super Eagles duo Ademola Lookman and Victor Osimhen were among the nominees for the 2024 International Federation of Football History and Statistics Men's World Best Player. In the news on Friday, we informed you that the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) said the Commission's efforts at delivering credible elections in the country were being challenged by fake news and disinformation. The INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, discloses at a two-day interactive workshop for broadcast media anchors in Lagos. Yakubu, represented by the INEC National Commissioner and Chairman Information and Voter Education Committee, Sam Olumekun, said that fake news and disinformation undermine the work of the electoral body. We also told you on Friday that President Bola Tinubu has restricted ministers and heads of agencies of the federal government to a maximum of 3 vehicles in their official convoys. A statement issued by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, said no additional vehicles will be assigned to them for movement. President Tinubu also ordered all ministers of state and heads of agencies to have at most 5 security personnel attached to them. The security team will comprise 4 police officers and 1 Department of State Service officer. President Tinubu directed the National Security Advisor to engage with the military, paramilitary, and security agencies to determine a suitable reduction in their vehicle and security personnel deployment. Still on Friday, it was reported in our news bulletin that the House of Representatives Committee on Federal Polytechnics and Higher Technical Education has assured that the dichotomy between degree and higher national diploma in status and employment in the country will be eliminated. Chairman of the committee, Fuad Kayode Laguda, gave the assurance during an interactive oversight engagement with directors of the Federal Polytechnic Shendam and Federal Polytechnic Wanune at the National Assembly. He added that there were a number of proposed bills to address the various challenges facing polytechnics in the country, which are all aimed to strengthen them to provide the needed professional technical expertise towards the country's quest for development. Laguda informed the rectors that the essence of the meeting was to assess their budget performance and know the challenges facing the institutions and find a way to support them to run smoothly and serve their intended purposes.
I think all these things we've asked, you need to go and put together a proper report, because this report practically says nothing apart from the fact that it is even not eligible. We don't have your number of students, we don't have your number of staff, we don't know if you followed the federal character for staff employment. Own up and say that you know your report is inadequate. I would beseech on my members and seek that we grant you the grace to resubmit another report to us that will be more comprehensive and that will be able to speak to all these questions we've been asking you.
You also heard that the Central Bank of Nigeria said it has not fixed any deadline for the circulation of the old 200, 500 and 1,000 naira banknotes. The acting director of Corporate Communications Department of the CBN, Hakama Sidi Ali, announced this in a statement in Abuja. Sidi Ali was reacting to social media reports that the Apex Bank had fixed December 31st as a deadline for the circulation of the old notes. She said that a Supreme Court verdict extending the legal tender status of the old banknotes indefinitely still subsists. From the international belt, we brought you a report that Rwandan Health Minister Sabin Nsanzimana has urged increased vigilance as the country continues to battle the deadly Marburg virus disease, which has claimed 15 lives and infected 63. 1 month after confirming the Marburg outbreak, Nsanzimana reported positive progress, saying they have had 10 cumulative days with no new deaths and only 1 new case during the same period. The new case recorded on Wednesday involves a health worker who has been caring for infected patients at a treatment center since the outbreak was announced in late September. In sports, you heard that the Confederation of African Football has nominated the Super Eagles for 2024 CAF National Team of the Year award. With that sports story on Friday, we have come to the end of This Week in the News, a review of stories that made headlines during the week. On behalf of my producer, Babatunde Ayeni, your narrator has been Abbas Umar Farouk.
However the news, wherever the news, and whenever the news is breaking, Vision News would bring you the news every day, 6 a.m., 12 noon, and 6 p.m. Listen to Vision News for the most authoritative news. Vision FM 92.1, your most authoritative source for news.
And that is confirmed.